Welcome to Home's Room. Just like Homeroom, we start off our day getting together with our homies, swapping stories, even a little kiss and tell action. This podcast contains language not suitable for younger listeners, topics about sex and mental health. Discretion is advised. Our views are our own. Let class begin.
Welcome back to Home's Room. I got another guest doing an interview. At the beginning of the year, I said we talked about what, New Year's resolutions, goalie kind of things we had for the podcast. I was like, honestly, to interview anybody in like motorsports would be really friggin' cool. And we're about to do that. So with me today, content creator, drag racer, picking up plaques along the way, certified boss babe. The internet knows her as LaLa Fox. Lauren Stoney, how are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. So first off, I just want to ask, you've always been a car person and you're a blue oval, born and bred car person at that, right?
Yes. Ford runs deep in my family. It's really the only car I've ever owned or I'm allowed. So to where I'm not disowned from my family. But yeah, definitely bleeding that Ford blue since birth.
Yeah. So I'm a Camaro person, Chevy, it's kind of the way it goes, but I just was curious from, like you said, you were kind of born into it. My earliest car memory that like got me, like I would help my dad fix our cars when I was younger, but like the first thing I ever saw that was cool was a 69 white with hugger orange stripe, like Camaro do a burnout at a car wash, just driving by. And I was like, Dad, what is that? And he told me what it was, but he was Mopar. So he said, it's just a Camaro though. And I was like, well, now I want to know more about it. So
Yeah.
it seems like dads get us into it a little bit and then they don't know what they start. So that's pretty cool.
Exactly. I remember growing up and asking my dad, like I'd write Junior Dragster on my Christmas list every year. This is like before I obviously could drive, but I never got one. So that's that. But now that I'm older and I'm racing now, my dad was like, I wish I knew you were serious back then. I was like, what do you think? Like I wanted a Junior Dragster on my list every year. Like I went to the track with you. Like, why do you think I was serious and wanted to get into racing sooner than I have now? So
yeah. Well, it's one of those things where, it's like my daughter was like, I want to play soccer. So we got her on a soccer team and she was miserable. And it was like, man, I'm not sitting out here in this freezing cold weather with this miserable, like 7-year-old, like this ain't for you. So like, I could see it, but also I'm glad that you ultimately like swung back around and found that, that passion for it or kept that passion for it.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask, so like you're from Michigan by way of South Carolina, right?
Yeah. I'm born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina. That's where I'm from.
Yeah, my mom is I wish I could say born and bred, but they moved around a little bit once they got a little bit older. She's one of like 12 kids, but she's from Winston-Salem. So yeah. So like my family is spread out up and down the East Coast. But yeah, so when I found that out, I was like, okay, you mentioned something on a video about your dad drinking twisted tea, and I thought it was just so funny because I can imagine.
Where was that? Did I post that somewhere?
Yeah, it was like I think it was a sidebar, or no, maybe it might have been
it was on somebody's podcast, and I did tell that story.
Yeah.
Oh God, my dad was mortified if I tell people that story.
It's a sweet tea. A sweet tea is a sweet tea to a person from the South, man.
Exactly. That's what he thought. So hey.
Yeah. So you've been racing and doing the YouTube thing for the last couple years, right? Like how'd that start? And, what was the nudge that got you committed to racing? And, what I assume, like you just said, was like a dream from that point forward.
Yeah. So I started my YouTube channel. It was after I moved to Michigan because I bought my Silver Fox when I lived in Charleston, and then I moved up here. And then I decided that I wanted to turbo my car. I would probably say my fiance definitely had an influence on me with that because he's a turbo guy. So all of his friends are turbo people. So I think he kind of, sunk his teeth into me with that. But nonetheless, I started my channel to kind of like document that build process, and that's literally all it was, because I am a nostalgic person. I love, just like looking back on things, like memories. I take a lot of pictures. I don't know. I just like, just remembering things. So I was like, well, you know, 5, 10 years from now, I could just go back and watch these videos and be like, wow, look at my car. Like, this was so cool. Yada, yada, yada. Well, then it just kind of just grew into something else. And I just started,
Yeah.
doing product installs and reviews. This was before I was like sponsored by anybody. Like, I was just doing YouTube, like I said, to just document everything. So that's kind of how that started. And then I don't know. I can't remember if I had plans to race my Silver Fox. I think it just sort of like happened. I was just like, I just wanted to turbo it, keep it a street car.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, well, I kind of want to take it on the track now. So that's kind of how it developed with that. But I would say my first time on the track was I worked for a local performance shop, and they had a few shop cars, and they let me drive one of them down the track. My first time was very uneventful. Something happened with the car, and I had to get the car towed off the track.
Oh.
So that was like my very like first outing, and I was like, great. And then the following year, I ended up hopping back in that same car and winning runner-up, actually, for the all-female True Street class. So it was a Whippled 2018 Mustang. So that was really fun for me. And then I just got more serious and started building my car more. And then I raced it for the first time last year. So
Yeah, those videos in that series, like, again, part of what makes me like happy to have gotten you on here, because you did a really good job of documenting the process, and none of the videos are super long in a way that like a lot of the videos, like, while they're informational, it becomes kind of like, okay, like I'm getting distracted playing on my phone or whatever. I didn't have that with you. And one video that I really loved, and I'm gonna talk about the car in a second, but one video that I really loved was the one where you like finished it, you were taking it to Mustang Week, and you showed it to your dad, and you let your dad drive in it. His face the entire time riding in it is like, that's like the best thing in the world. Nothing better than that.
yeah, that was a really proud moment. I was really, because I didn't tell him that I was doing any of that stuff to my car. So it was really cool to show him like all the hard work I have been doing. And yeah, it was a really cool moment, I think, for me. So
I loved it. And talking about the car, uh, 92 or 93?
I have a 92 and I have a 93, actually. I just
Okay.
bought a 93 Calypso last year.
Yeah. That I knew that for some reason I was thinking it was that I had them backwards, but so you got the car, and then you decided before Mustang Week, whatever year it was, that you were going to turbo it and redo some of the engine bay, clean it up, make it more of a looker than it was when you got it, and you did it in 42 days, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
got that correct. And that was, I feel like, the hardest I've ever worked. I don't know. It was a trying time, working 8 hours a day in the garage every day for like 5 hours. It was grueling, but it was rewarding. Definitely, like, it tests your limits. So could I do it again? Yeah, we could probably do it again, but would I do it again? No.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that again. It was super stressful. So
It came out really good, and I was like, watching those videos was definitely like a man. And full disclosure, I used to have a turbo 93 Del Sol that was, I mean, it was more of a street machine than anything else. We street tires, we didn't run anything crazy on the front and back. That was like 2005, so that was before like street racing really like took hold the way it has now. So I appreciate a turbo build. I appreciate somebody building it in a driveway or a garage or your buddy's house, because that's how we built that car. And the labor of love and being able to look at it is awesome. But more importantly, putting somebody in that passenger seat and watching them grab the dashboard or watching them like grab their belts real quick is just like, that's what this is about. So seeing those videos and seeing those reactions, that's pretty awesome. So good job on putting out good content that like captivated people.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Um, as a little girl, did you think that you'd be in the company as so many other women in the automotive industry like you are now?
Um, it's always been it's always been a dream of mine, you know, and I never, I would say it was always in the back of my mind. You know, some people have dreams and are like, or they want to do something, and you know, they just take like a different path in life and don't and never pursue it. Well, you know, I went to school for a while, I got my education, did all that fun stuff, but then I circled back. So, you know, I think I don't know if I would say that I would be where I am today. Like uh, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Like I didn't see myself having a platform, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't, it's not, this is not something that I'm doing for a platform or for
Hmm.
attention or for anything. Like this is something that I feel like I don't know, I don't know if born to do is the correct saying, but just something that has just made me who I am. Cars made me who I am. I spent a lot of time with my dad at the track, watching him race as young as 7 from my memory. He's a huge Ford guy, Mustang guy, so I've been around Mustangs since way before then, way before the age of 5. Um, so it's just something that's always been a part of my life, and I don't think I could be without it, honestly. Just, yeah, I don't think I'd be without it.
I think that, you have the bug, and you can tell how excited you get in your videos about a new part. Doesn't seem like, oh, this person is paying me to like talk about this new part. Like you're legitimately excited to see what the outcome is and what, how this is going to improve. And one of the videos specifically that I just watched, and I try and do research on my guests, so I like binge watched a ton of your stuff real recently. You were trying to win, I believe it was the first time in the Silver Fox, but the second time doing the all female true street class, and you needed to run a time, and you did the math in your head, and then you got that time slip, and like how excited you were there. You can't fake that. You can't
Yeah.
make that moment like for TV. Like that was a real moment. And I love that you're being real. And here at Homes Room, like that's kind of what, like you said, I I guess this is kind of a platform. Like the other day, somebody called me a content creator, and I was like, "Ooh, no, I'm not." And then I thought about it, and I was like, "Damn it, I am a content creator. I didn't think about that. Now I feel weird because it's not about me. It's about giving people a platform for them to talk about it, giving them somewhere to be like passionate about the thing that they're passionate about." So, like, I completely understand. I enjoy having conversations with people. I enjoy hearing what makes people happy because ultimately, like that thing makes me happy because it's like, yeah, I could be proud of this person that now like I'm gonna consider a friend because we're bonding over this. But you know, when it comes to the platform, if you will, that you have, I think it's awesome to see not only, a woman, a female, whatever you want to say, doing it and actually doing it with class, but also a person of color. I struggle with this podcast trying to get people of color to like agree to come on because they always think there's some sort of catch. They always think that there's some sort of, and that's, it's always unfortunate because it's like, no, I genuinely care about what you're doing and I just want to give you an opportunity. And they're like, well, I'll reach out to you again. And, and it's always like, well, all right. So to have you
Well,
on,
well, what is the catch then? Like, what are
I
they?
I don't I have
Oh,
no
you don't
idea.
know. Okay, I
Uh,
was like thinking of like a downside of being on a podcast, and I personally, I mean, unless you're not agreeing with the content that the host is putting out, which I totally agree with. You know, if certain things don't align with your brand, but huh, that's
yeah,
interesting.
it's super weird. I had somebody tell me uh, that they're looking to do podcast interviews. They liked the show, and then when I was like, "Yeah, let's try and book a time," they were like, "Oh, so I didn't realize that like you." I wish I could remember what they said. It was like I didn't realize that you didn't do them in person, and I was like, it was like something like super
Really?
stupid, and I was like, "Well, I mean, I live where I live, and I have a program that lets me do it remotely, so it's kind of, it's super seamless, and it's like I only do in-person stuff. I won't if I can't sit down and like see the person, I just won't do it." And I was like,
Okay.
okay. Yeah. It's super,
Horizon.
super weird. But yeah, another random childhood question for you. If, you know, you did cool, if you didn't cool, but were you a Hot Wheels kid? Like my daughter loves Hot Wheels and I'm a girl dad. I got two daughters and they were both like Hot Wheels kids. So we're like, were you a Hot Wheels kid?
I I played with them a lot, like with my cousin, because him and I kind of like grew up together. We went to school together, so he had all the cool Hot Wheels at his house. But my younger brother, he was like really into like model cars and just cars too. So I'd play with my younger brother as well. But I wasn't like a major Hot Wheels kid where I had like a bucket full or like the carrying case with the Hot Wheels, or anything like that. But I spent a lot of time riding four wheelers, playing in the woods, because I grew up in like a rural area of Charleston. I'm not like from the city or anything like that, so we were just outside all the time, getting dirty and just in nature and riding four wheelers and dirt bikes and all that stuff. So that's what I did as a kid.
Yeah. Uh, I I assume, most car people, they always make the joke that like, the car obsession starts with 99 cents at a Hot Wheels rack because it's the way that most people get into it. And I love that personally, that my daughters, play with Hot Wheels and they enjoy that. And they come in and I'm watching, YouTube channels like yours and they see, somebody that looks like them, or they see, you know, this content out there. So it's awesome that like you were, but you weren't, because there's, that means that you don't have to be a Hot Wheels kid. You didn't have to grow up loving cars to be into cars as an adult. And, I think that that's another thing that shows a tremendous amount of like effort on your part to be authentic and to show who you are. I love that. Moving on to the car. Tell us about the car you run, whatever specs you want to drop. And I know you live that three pedal life, which I also love. I'm a three pedal life person myself. So
Yeah, my 92 is my first Fox body. Silver Fox, still a stock short block, 302 for now. My dad gave me his old Windsor base block that I'm going to be putting in the car, so it's a way bigger cubic inch motor. Hopefully, when it's all said and done, it'll be pushing 1,000 horsepower on the high end. I probably would just keep it around 700 for the street mostly.
mhm.
That's like an enjoyable spot, I think. But it's on Holly EFI. Got some Stifler suspension on the car. Tremec is a new partner of mine. I have the TKX transmission going in the car. That's been one, kind of learning curve, if you will. When you start to put your car on the track, you just slowly start replacing things and figuring out the weak points, especially with stick shift racing. I think it's a little hard on the car personally, but I'm trying to make it stronger, in that regard, just so I can do a little bit better at the track. Steeda components, Jegs is also a really big partner of mine. So yeah, I just have a lot of different sponsors that have jumped on board with the build, and then I bought a 93 Calypso notch. I'm a notch girl. I would love a hatch,
Mhm.
honestly, but I am a notch girl through and through. Gorgeous color. It's a roller right now, but I'm using that for my Turbos and Tatas race car build, so it is the perfect roller, I think. It's a super straight, clean body. Definitely needs some interior work, and it has an old cage already in it, so definitely gonna have to cut that out, gut the interior, put a new dash in it, and then I'm gonna send it off to a cage builder. And so that's gonna be like the first step for that car, so.
So the cage in your Silver Fox, is that a bolt-in or is it a weld-in? Because it looked like you got it powder coated at some point in
Yeah,
time.
it's a bolt-in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Calypso, is that going to be like a full track build or
Yeah.
okay.
I'm gonna put a 25.5 cage in that, legal for 7-ish seconds in the quarter.
Mhm.
Um, I would like it to still be streetable in a
Mhm.
sense. So I can do like drag and drives and some street classes for NMRA, like True Street. So, but it'll mostly be a dedicated race car, yes. But if I want to take it to the grocery store, like get the itch a little bit, take it to like a local car meet. I want to be able to do that stuff too.
Yeah, I think that's the fun part. I had mentioned my Del Sol back in the day, and that was one of those cars where we ran it a couple times at the track, but like I said, mostly on the street. And the one time that we got like actual good runs at the track, we it completely like street car, no cage, no nothing, Targa top. So like it was super unsafe. And the guy was like, if you run a tenth faster, we're going to tell you to leave. So I would just tell you turn it down or go ahead and head out now. Because if you run it, we're going to see. And I was like, well, that sucks. This was like 2 runs and now we got to like basically leave. So, when it comes to something being streetable, but like safe, now I love that. Like that's the first step, where before it used to be like, let's make it as fast as possible and worry about safety later. So,
Yeah.
um,
A lot of these tracks aren't, or events aren't playing anymore. So, safety's, it's a big component, honestly. People wrecking and stuff. It can get scary really fast, and safety, you know, especially like with the safety now, these people are walking out unscathed. So
mhm.
that's a really big, I don't know, it's just a really big, it's a really positive thing to see, I think, the push for safety and how the safety is performing, when racers are getting in wrecks and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So one of I think it was on YouTube, and it might have been on Instagram. I saw it. You're pulling into the event center somewhere, and car on display. What's that life been like? Jumping into like uh I don't want to say the show side of it, but essentially like, you said you had sponsors and people jumping on board. So getting your car, to the point where, people are like, hey, set it up at our booth. How's that feel? How's that process go first off? And then like, how's that make you feel?
So I think that event was Autorama, which is
Mm-hmm.
a huge indoor kind of like car show. There's some cars in there that like I could never imagine how much people are spending on their cars. Like, holy crap, just some really, cool, unique builds. So it's definitely an honor being in the building amongst some of the greatest builders, racers, creative minds, just like in one space. Being that I'm in the Motor City, I'm sure there's lots of cars that deserve to be in Autorama. So it was a really cool experience, driving my car in there, showing off all the hard work that, me and my fiance and some of our friends have contributed to my car, and as well as represent all the companies that support me. So that was just a really great, I think, event. Just be like, here's my car, here's my baby. I hope you love it as much as I do. Everybody coming up to me saying they watch my YouTube channel, and or they follow me on Instagram, or they love my content. It was really humbling, I think, just because I'm not doing this for any sort of attention. I get very not shy, because I'll talk to anybody, but it's kind of like like, no, don't talk to me, like don't be like, oh, I love watching you, because I'm just like, oh my gosh, please don't watch me, like don't watch me. I love it regardless. So it's just really just rewarding, I think, and humbling that so many people are like rooting for me. And it's like people that you just would like silent supporters, because
Mhm.
not everybody comments on your stuff, and but I don't know, it was just really a great moment. It's like, okay, I'm not doing this for nothing, and I'm glad I'm inspiring people along the way. So
Yeah. Um, One last thing kind of before we move to the turbos and tatas. Here at Homes Room, we embrace like the mental health struggle. And from what I've seen and heard from you've battled your way back and out of that. And, sometimes those things are bigger than what people will play them as. And, that's exactly what made me shoot my shot with you was I've written books. I've had like a million lives. I went to Wyotech to do chassis fab. That didn't pan out the way I was hoping it would. I did a bunch of other stuff in between. I ended up having to quit my job, and I wrote a book, or book series out of my depression because I had nothing else to do. And, it was like, I got to do something. Otherwise I'm gonna lose my mind. And seeing people that jump into a hobby or jump into something because it preserves their, their mental health, their well-being, it gives them something to be excited about. How does it feel that like people see, somebody like you and they think that I want to be that thing, or that thing makes me happy, that thing makes me excited, I want to do more like that?
I think that's it. It's a feeling I'll never get, like used to. I
Mm-hmm.
guess people just saying like, "Oh, you inspired me to do this." I'm like, well, like, wow, like I don't know. It's just something that I will never get used to hearing. So it's just like I said, it's just a really humbling thing. I struggled with um a little dark time. Was it maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago now? I lost my job twice in 1 year. And I'm someone who, I prioritize my education. So I have an MBA. I went to school, I did the right thing, and then it's just like I was just struggling finding a job. The job market is super tough. And I think I was someone who valued like accolades and things behind your name, and go to school and get your education and be somebody. And I just, during that time, I really reflected, and I don't I'm not valuable in that regard. I should not see
Mm-hmm.
myself valuable in that regard. My passion is helping people, regardless. So, it doesn't matter the letters I have after my name or how much money is in my bank account. Like, none of that stuff is where I should be placing value, like within myself, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. So, I had to sit with that and realize that I'm not in control. Life is going
Mm-hmm.
to life at times. I'm not in control. Um, so I think going through that has really helped me transition into where I am today, with getting a huge partnership with Ford. Which is why I moved to Michigan, because I wanted to work for Ford out of grad school. Now, I never obviously got the opportunity to work for Ford, but I am partnered with them today, which
Mm-hmm.
is way bigger than anything I could have ever imagined. And I think I had to go through that dark period to appreciate, the partnerships and all of the cool things that I'm doing right now. Um, so I just realized, everything happens for a reason. And, I just hope to, inspire more people to get into motorsports, because I don't want our sport to die.
Yeah.
Younger generation, it's so important to get them excited about motorsports racing, whether it's drifting, autocross, anything, motorcycle racing, whatever you like to do. Just getting them excited, because I want my children to race. Like, like
Yeah.
the generation, ahead of me is I won't say dying out, but it's just, tracks are closing.
Yeah.
Like, our sport, I feel like, is slowly disappearing, and we need to band together and figure out how to stop that, because I don't know what I do without racing or motorsports or anything like that. So, if I can inspire just one person to turn that wrench or go to support your local track, anything, then I'm all good with that. So,
Yeah, I'm from Kansas. I live 30 minutes away from Heartland Park. And last year when they announced that Heartland Park wasn't going to have any more national events, it was just like, so like nothing down here this way at all, because that's the only, like, besides Kansas Speedway, that's the only thing that's like even really open. And that's where, when I was going to the track and we were going to watch people, and, like that's where we would go. And now it's almost like sad. Like I used to be a member of a Chevrolet, like whatever it is, where they allow you to come test drive new cars, and give them feedback on what the vehicle looks like before they release them to the public. um and that was where they always did those, and then that like whole thing disappeared, and it was just like, wow, we really do need to figure out, how to make sure we're keeping people turning wrenches and keeping the sport alive. And
yep.
I'm glad that people like you are creating YouTube videos, hopefully, getting people inspired. But speaking of inspiring, tell us about Turbos and Tatas. How did that come about? And, like, what is that like mean to you that you have created this brand, which I see behind you also?
Oh, yes, these are my shirts behind me. um, so turbos and the turbos and what was I even say? Turbos and Tatas. It's a mouthful. I started back in like October of 2021, and I was going to release my first shirt, which wasn't like affiliated with any sort of like cause or anything. And then I kind of tweaked the design a little bit. I was actually having coffee with one of my best friends. She's a drag racer as well. And I was like, we were talking about, sorry, this is my dog. We were talking about, um, like me releasing my shirt and stuff like that. And then I just like, a thought kind of popped in my head and I was like, well, what can I do to like help people? Because this was like, I think like in August, September. I was like, well, what can I do to help people? Like, I want to donate, some of the profits to charity, like something. And then like turbos and tatas. And I was like, oh, because breast cancer awareness is coming up. Like, this would be a great way to give back. So I tweaked the design of the shirt, made it solely focused on turbos and tatas, and it just kind of blossomed from there. When I at that time when I did lose my job, and I had no money, especially to put into a business or anything like that. It really, I think, hurt me a little bit because I was planning on, fully launching it, just kind of getting it off the ground, and it was just a setback for me, like another year. And last year and some of this year, I was able to financially start it up myself. So that's been like a huge blessing. And then now, yep, I'm just raising money and slinging t-shirts. But the main goal is also why I bought the Calypso car. So that car is going to be the dedicated race car build for Turbos and Tatas. So racing all over the country, and just raising money for breast cancer awareness research and those impacted by breast cancer.
Yeah. So like I said, that's one of those things that it's kind of hard to find people that haven't been touched by breast cancer in some shorter way. And I'm glad that not only are people bringing awareness to it by doing things like you're doing and raising money for it, but people are being more open and honest about the conversation. Anybody that's got a platform saying, hey, like, go get your mammograms, go do this thing, go do that. Like, anybody that's putting out those things, for me personally, is huge because the effect of it is just insane. And it transcends, political parties. It transcends like races. It transcends like anything that like puts a pre-qualifier on it. It's moved on. And one of the things that, like, as soon as you launched that and I saw that was the thing, when I wrote and released my first book in October, all the proceeds that I got, I donated to breast cancer awareness, because part of the story, the mother in it actually passes away from it. And I think that people bringing awareness to it is, like I said, is important, but also people bringing awareness to it in a way that is unique. Turbos and Tatas, although it may be a mouthful, it's still a good brand. Like, it's catchy. It's what it needs to be. And building a car and using that as a way to market and to get people excited. It's sitting outside of a local grocery store with a cool car and t-shirts is something that, like, I know as a kid, I'd be like, hey, let's go look at that. And, you might make it 4 or 5 minutes between people that stop because somebody's going to be like, oh, let's see what that is. And to be able to give you a spot to say, like, this is what I'm doing, and hopefully get people, more aware of it, is the least that I can do. And after we get off here, I'm definitely going to order some merch. I've been waiting to order it because I wanted to say it in person. But what else came along with like creating Turbos and Tatas? Was it, like you said, you had an MBA, right? So like, was it something in your wheelhouse, or was it something that you had to like learn a little bit about and creating?
Yeah, so my MBA focus was marketing. Now, of course, you learn finance, you learn all the other areas of business, but my focus was marketing. So I would say I kind of used some things I learned about that. You will also learn leadership skills and stuff like that. So I think that all those things kind of transcend into being a business owner, how to carry yourself tactfully, how to respond, to people and things like that. That's also, I think, carried on to how I am as like an influencer and a content creator too in this space. You just know how to carry yourself and think with a business mindset. The one important thing about Turbos and Tatas, like the merch specifically for that, I'm not profiting off of at all. All those proceeds are donated, 100% of them. Um, so I would say, I have some business acumen, but I definitely did have to learn a lot. I think people think, oh, you just get an LLC and you have a business, but it's so much more that goes into that. I had to just research and, you get a good team behind you. I have a really cool accountant. He's pretty cool. So, I think it's just, doing your research basically and just figuring out what you need to do. Now, it's not hard to start a business, but for some reason, I feel like people just make it seem like it's way easier and less involved than it is. So
I can feel that. Here we talk about, motivation a lot and people chasing those dreams and chasing those things. And one of the things that we said early on was like, just buy the microphone. So like for me, starting a podcast was like, the hardest thing was like pulling the trigger on like, if I buy a microphone, this is real. I have to do this. I have to like commit to this fully. And this is going to be a thing. And, when people out there listen to this episode and are thinking about doing something, doesn't matter what it is, like what kind of advice do you have for those people?
Oh, I think my biggest advice I can just give to anyone ever, whether you're building a car, starting a business, wanting to help people, is, here I am putting on like my business hat. Just do your research. First and foremost, do your research. Surround yourself with a great community of people, whether it's one person that you can really trust, two people, three people. Just surround yourself with great people that have your best interest. Especially, I speak to women all the time when they're like, okay, like I want to get into cars, da da da. I'm like, find someone you can trust. Just don't put yourself in a position to get taken advantage of ever. And just, I think those are my just two biggest things. Just community, don't give up, keep going. Things are going to get hard with no matter what you're doing. If you're starting a business, if you're building a car, if you're just doing anything, things change. You have to know how to pivot too. Just if something's not working out, pivoting is so important. Don't get stuck. Don't stay in a rut or anything like that. Just keep going. Yeah.
I feel that we also, I don't know if you've ever experienced roller derby. I used to play, I was a coach. My wife still plays. One of my first guests, she also played. She's one of my friends. And in that sport, there's a player called a pivot, and their job is to switch roles. They play defense or they play offense. They go score points or they're playing defense. Like, and they have to be able to do both on a moment's notice. So like we started saying like, you have to be able to pivot. And like, that's like as a mentality. And I 100% agree with like, if the best people think, somebody's smart, and it's not necessarily that they're smart. They just understood that this thing wasn't working and they already had an idea on what to do if it didn't work, and they committed to it. So, like I also am curious because you have a bunch of sponsors, and I'm going to ask you to plug your sponsors in a little bit, but what tips do you have for networking? Especially because with Turbos and Tatas, I'm sure there some networking was involved.
So I will say networking hasn't really been involved with Turbos and Tatas,
Really?
actually. It's really just been all me kind of thing.
That's awesome.
I might have mentioned it on some podcasts, but it was completely 100% started up, by me. Now my first batch of shirts, I did have a bunch of companies hop on board. So I will say that. But then when I launched it, like I would say professionally, I did start that up on my own. But my first batch of shirts, I had interest from a lot of friends who own businesses. So they were able to make that first set of shirts happen. So I'm forever grateful for those people. I even have like a plaque here, not a plaque, but like a of my first design and all these sponsors here, just kind of remembering my first t-shirt launch for Turbos and Tatas. But sorry, I got sidetracked. What was the question?
Networking. Tips for networking.
Yes, networking. So I would say maybe not every, a lot of companies that I've worked with, I was introduced by someone who either knows the owner or the company watched my content that I was putting out, and they reached out to me. I would say, though, if you are in a specific niche, so if you're drifting, if you're drag racing, go to events where there are companies that are in that specific niche. Talk to the salespeople. Figure out who's over marketing. These are people that are going to be like in charge of the sponsorships and stuff like that. So you just really get your name and your face out there. Get familiarized with these companies that are big in your particular niche. I go to PRI every year, which is like a huge kind of like trade show where all these companies in motorsports, not just racing, but just you have people there with machines, for machining, and just a huge industry show every year. And I think that's a great place to go, because you're, again, meeting the salespeople, meeting the marketing directors, meeting people that can, open doors for you. But my biggest thing is definitely, you have to offer companies an ROI. You can't just say, hey, can you sponsor my build? Because then it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do for me?
Mm-hmm.
Or what is your story? So I think in my case, my ROI is install videos, unboxings, putting your part on my car, talking about it, and stuff like that. That's kind of my ROI, and making content about the parts that you would provide to me. So I think it's just going to be figuring out that ROI, but sponsorships are a relationship. And I feel like a lot of people just think, oh, it's a free handout or something, or partnerships. It's just, oh yeah, here's the parts. Okay, see ya, bye. Like, you have to maintain relationships with all of your partners, all of your sponsors. I feel like you almost work for that company in a sense. So you are representing them on and off the track, or, at the grocery store. Like, you can't just act crazy. Like, you are, like, you can't, have outbursts. So you have to be professional. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're someone who likes to get a little rowdy, have a good time, maybe those sponsorships and partnerships aren't for you. But it is, I feel like, a job within itself. So, because you are a role model, you are a representation of that company.
Yeah, I think all of those are good tips. And PRI is one of those things, like, for me, I've never been to either one, but PRI and SEMA are two bucket list places I would love to go. Big trade shows, a lot going on, and SEMA only seems like it gets bigger every year. Like, PRI seems like it gets bigger, but SEMA is like becoming less of a trade show and more of like a destination event now. And I think that's crazy. So
I've actually never been to SEMA, so I just feel like I'd get overwhelmed there because there's so much to do. I feel like you can still go to SEMA and not see everything. Yeah. PRI, you can see everything. It would probably take you a day, which you could walk the whole thing.
Yeah. So. SEMA is like, it's like Disney World, where you have to plan your strategy of attack to walk through it day by day.
Exactly.
We're coming kind of towards the end of this. I just had a note that I wrote, and I'm wearing my Brie Daniel shirt because I felt like it was an appropriate shirt to wear. But you're one of those people that, to me, like, is goals, and you agreeing to be on this is, like, that's huge to me. I don't take it like lightly that you were like, yeah, circle back, and like, I'm going to launch this thing, and I will let me know. I appreciated it so much because, like I said, your goals, and people like you, Brittany Automotive, Reckless Raquel, like, all of these people that, like, I follow and I love supporting, because I enjoy that you're putting out content and you're not bagging on somebody else. You're not, like, you're, while keeping a clean image, you're not, putting down other people in your videos. You may have whatever opinions you have, but at the end of the day, it's about what you're doing and the partners that you hold and the cars that you're building and, the content that you're choosing to put out. So like I said, I love that. And I love seeing all of you support each other. Like whenever I see like your name and somebody else's comment or your name and somebody else's, it's like, hey, I love that they really support each other over here, because that's what it's about. So
absolutely, that we have to stick together. It doesn't really, I mean, we have the competitive aspect of our sport, but at the end of the day, we have to stick together to keep it together. So
yeah.
I love all of those ladies you mentioned and so many more. I hope your daughters grow up and become drag racers, drifters, whatever they want to be themselves. That'd be great. But nonetheless, I appreciate your support. And yeah, thank you for having me on.
Yeah. All right. So we got the this or that. So I got, like I said, a few questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So the first one, and this one, if you live that 3-pedal life, you will appreciate this question, especially if you've raced. So the 2-3 or the 3-4?
On the track, 2-3 is stressful for me. On the street, though, 3-4 is probably my favorite. 3-4 on the track is good too, because it's like, all right, I'm going out the back door now.
Yeah.
Done. Yeah. That's my final answer.
Right? Like I said, when I wrote that question, I was like, man, nothing makes you feel like more of a badass than when you hit a good 2-3. You're like, yeah, that was a good one. But nothing makes you feel like, okay, we're good, than hitting a good 3-4. And it's like, this is the other side of it. We good. We made it. So I agree with that answer. So, more nervous energy, I guess, more, like which way you're going to go, taking the staging bulb or taking the wind light?
Staging.
That was going to be my answer as well. It's something about that moment of like, so
It's like
yeah.
everything is quiet. You can hear your insides. Like everything is just like you're breathing hard. You're like it's like you're just hyper focusing. It's a cool feeling. I don't
It
know.
is.
I love racing.
Yeah, that's that moment. Like even like I said, I did more stoplight to stoplight stuff than anything else. I mean, we did it in Mexico, so there was no, all that kind of stuff. But the nothing makes me happier than when I had like a buddy sitting in the seat and a guy pulls up next to me and the light changes and I can like kind of hear his car, but not anything else. And it's just focusing on my shifts, my tack, my like that feeling of like right before, that light change, that feeling is just good. So I agree with that one as well. And this one, I'm saying you got, good money, you got good status, all that kind of stuff. Do you want your dream build or your dream sponsor?
Dream build. Of course. Dream build. Yeah, definitely dream build. Over I would say my sponsors, I'm very grateful for the sponsors I have because they're huge companies, I feel like, in the industry, and I just never thought someone like little me, would be, the first female for a lot of these companies, the first African American female for a lot of these companies to be sponsored by them. So, it's just a really really cool feeling. So, shout out to, love my sponsors, but definitely dream build.
Yeah. So like I said, we'll let you drop your sponsors, and I purposely put that as the last question because I assume, just like most like gearhead car people, you'd be like, sponsors are cool, but like if I could just have my dream build, like that's the thing I want. So I'm gonna give you an opportunity to drop your like where people can find you and the people you're sponsored by, and one of them is probably most important because you were having clutch issues. So did you secure a clutch?
I bought a clutch, yes. But Trimic, so to start my sponsorship list off, Trimic, I just partnered with them. They gave me the TKX trans to put in my car. So just kind of doing an overhaul on the trans and the clutch. I don't know which one, it is. So I'm just going to replace everything. And then, Stiflers, they do chassis and suspension for Mustangs and F-150s. So love, them keeping my chassis and suspension, all that stuff stiffer. It's a really big difference, especially in the Fox body. And then, Steeda is on board. Jags is amazing. Holly is another great one who's been a definitely like pivotal part in my build. Vibrant Performance, they sponsored me last year. Something like that. They sponsored me. So a lot of stuff with my turbo kit and exhaust. And then I also just got sponsored by Tick Performance. So they hooked me up with a shifter. So that's really cool as well. Yeah. So hopefully making waves this year. And then I'll be pulling that motor out and going a little bit faster. So actually a lot of it faster. So if you want to follow more of my journey, more of the build for the Silver Fox and for the Turbos and Tatas car, I have 2 Instagram pages. So the first one is LaLa, LaLa Fox, FOX 92. You can find a lot of the Silver Fox on that page. And then Turbos and Tatas, which is TURBOS and AND Tatas, TATAS. So that's going to be more focused on the Turbos and Tatas build. And then I also have a Turbos and Tatas page on Facebook. And you can find me on YouTube at LaLa Fox 92. And you can also shop and support Turbos and Tatas and myself at www.turbosandtatas.com.
There you go. So look all of that up. Go like and subscribe, and start supporting. Thank you again for being here. It was a blast. You maybe recognize the Holmes Room podcast likes occasionally. I am also Holmes and Phasma. I drive a Jeep called Phasma, or my wife drives it now because we switched cars. But so Holmes and Phasma is also something that like throws people off. That's like my personal account. So I share your stuff a lot, and I want to continue to support you and anything you got. So I'm super excited that I get to put out an episode for our boss babes, and everything you said here definitely solidifies your status as a boss babe. So thank you.
Nice. Well, thank you for having me. Shout out to all the boss babes. Ladies, keep going because we run the world. So no, but thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for all the support. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, just thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for letting me tell my story. So I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
The bell is about to ring. If you want to drop us a voice message or simply ask a question, you can do that by clicking the link in the show notes below. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people find us. Theme music by Kinsey. More music available on Spotify. Remember, every day is a class. Go learn something.